Hey kids, how you doing out there? It's Tracy, and I'm a grateful believer in Jesus. I came to celebrate recovery with addictions to methamphetamine, alcohol, and being a sexual abuser. How are you doing? You got any fatigue going on? Any fatigue happening? COVID fatigue? Are you getting burned out on what's going on with your politics where you live? With wondering if the hospitals are going to overflow and explode? Wondering if you're going to survive, if you're going to get sick? Hoping that grandma or grandpa doesn't get sick? Yeah, that's very common. And there's really nothing unusual about having those thoughts. It's the day-to-day thing of, will we have to stay sheltered in, or are things going to open back up? When will the next time I'll be able to have coffee with my friend in a coffee shop? These things building up over these 9 months has caused this COVID fatigue in us. But really, the COVID fatigue is not something new. It just has a new name. Haven't you in your life oftentimes asked, well, what's next? What if I don't get that promotion? What if? What if? The what ifs can really destroy us at times. They can make us stop and get frozen in our place. The person who's new in recovery and they get into a step study and they're in step 1 and they start thinking about, oh no, what do I do in the 4th step? People say that's where it separates the men and the women from the boys and the girls. Well, what do I do in the 5th step? How am I going to apologize to people? How am I going to make amends for the things that I do? If you've ever sponsored anyone, I'm sure you might have had some of those questions asked about you or asked towards you about the step study. But the fact of the matter is that we as sponsors and accountability partners need to just have the people stay on the step that they're at, working one step at a time. The questions of what's going to happen in the future, what's going to be next. If we knew the future, we'd probably try and change our trajectory, either to get to that or to change that future, because that's the human condition. We have Jesus, who is our ultimate rabbi. Now, the old traditions of rabbis is that they would walk into a village and they would select some of the smarter students, because all the children had to learn the Old Testament back then, what we call the Old Testament. They would read the Torah and actually memorize it. And if some of them were memorizing really well, the rabbi would say, follow me. And then these young people would just follow the rabbi. Wherever he went, they would walk behind him. One of the sayings is, allow the dust of the rabbi to fall upon you. That's how closely that you're following him, that his glorious dust would fall upon you. Now, these were just men, but then Christ comes along, the ultimate rabbi. And it's interesting in the Gospels that when he meets Peter, he says, follow me. And Peter doesn't question it. He drops what he's doing and he follows Jesus. At the end of the Gospel of John, Jesus asked Peter 3 times, do you love me? And Peter says, yes. And he says, then feed my sheep. He asked him the 3rd time, and by now Peter's just like, yes, I love you, okay, whatever. And Jesus says, then feed my sheep. In essence, he's saying, do what I've called you to do, what you've learned by following me. But then Peter says, but what about John? And Jesus says, well, that's none of your business, quite frankly. And Jesus ends with the words to Peter, follow me. So Peter's life, which should be a good example to a lot of us, is that Jesus said, hey, follow me. And Peter did. And at the end, Jesus says, follow me. And it's the same thing for us. We follow Christ into what he has called us to. So many of you that have come to Celebrate Recovery or have been in Celebrate Recovery for a while have been called by the Spirit moving inside you that you have a hurt, habit, or hang-up that just can't be fixed on your own. Your best thoughts of how you're going to do it or what you want to do to control it perhaps hasn't worked, and that's why you're here, right? That's a lot of it in my case too. I couldn't stop the hurts, the tapes in my head, the things in my heart. I didn't know how to do it, and I'd always think, what if I could? But I couldn't. So I came to Celebrate Recovery, trusting Christ's leading, and then there's the 12 steps. 12 steps standing in front of me. Well, okay, so I start on step 1, and then, well, what do I do when I get to step 4 or step 5? I got to make amends to people. How am I going to do that? And fortunately for me, I had a wise sponsor who said, don't worry about that. Work the step that you're on, taking one step at a time and moving on gradually. You know, I heard a story a little while back. It was about a group from a church that went to Israel. Now, they had a guy named Ray who was their leader, and he'd been to Israel many, many times, and he'd seen all the sites, and he knew it very well. So they were all following Ray. And every morning they'd get up and they'd load on the bus and they'd go somewhere, and the questions would be, hey, Ray, where are we going? Hey, Ray, what are we going to see today?
Hey, Ray, when are we going to have lunch?
Ray would often just ignore them. But every once in a while, Ray would stop when a question was asked to him, and he'd turn around and say, you all are following me. I know where I'm going. I know where I'm taking you. And it won't be a place of harm, but it'll be a place for you to see and to learn and to have your hearts filled. You need to trust me as your rabbi and just follow me. So I thought that was a great thing that Ray had said about that, because he added on another part which I found really interesting. He said, if I tell you where we're going or what we're going to do, you are going to put something in your imagination. You are going to have a thought about it and form an opinion about it in your mind that probably will not be correct. And how true is that? I can take someone who just comes in to Celebrate Recovery, and I can tell them what's going to happen on each step, and it will be different for them because they're walking a life with Christ of their own. We all have different paths in life, but in recovery, we all walk the same 12 steps, because the principles and tools of Celebrate Recovery do help us to alleviate the hurt, habit, or hang up in our life. It's just good. To think beyond is going to get us stopped, haltered, or create something in our own minds that is probably not true. And we're not going to get anywhere. We're going to get stuck in a belief system that is not true. So it's really important that we just follow the rabbi. Now, your rabbi could very well be your sponsor, and your sponsor should be acting as a rabbi to you, not to fix you, but to lead you through those steps, because they've walked those steps before. Having strong accountability partners with you is good, to support you and remind you, hey, you don't need to look to the future. Let's just work on this one thing right now. Because oftentimes, as people in CR have known, you get through a step study and you're not all done. You've just eased one of the hurts, habits, or hangups, and then you realize there's more issues in your life. Most of us didn't become addicts in one day, and we didn't become addicts just because we used too much. It was something else deep inside that led to that. Same thing with being a codependent or an overspender or a person with an anger issue. There's other things deep down inside. So we can stop being angry at people and overspending and maybe even stop using, but it's that issue inside which started it, which I don't even know that we would have the question to ask about that in the beginning of recovery. And Christ is okay with that. He says, just follow me. And a wise sponsor would say the same thing. That's okay. Just follow me. We don't all have the answers. Jesus has all the answers, and yet he didn't give all the answers to people. He let them ask questions, and he just either asked them another question or he said nothing to them and allowed them to walk their own path, to walk their 12 steps. This COVID will end. How it will end, I don't know, but it will. Whether we go to heaven and it's all over, or things just begin to change, or we just learn how to live in it. Either way, we're to follow the rabbi. Follow your Jesus who loves you. Stick with your sponsor who is walking with you on the steps. Hold close to those who care about you. The fatigue, the fatigue. It's going to be whatever it's going to be, whether it's COVID, mortgage rates, finances, kids, Christmas presents. We're going to have some sort of form of it. So that's always going to be, and we need to just learn how to breathe and continue to walk our steps, following the one who loves us the most. My name is Tracy. I love you, and God loves you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So don't fatigue yourself over that. God bless you all. Have a great day.